Hi there, and hope you're having a nice Wednesday. Marie here from North Star Messaging and Strategy. And Jesse will be joining soon. And today we wanted to talk about something very topical, which is the topic of gratitude, but to actually bring it into our discussion around copywriting, messaging, messaging strategy, and leadership for entrepreneurs and thought leaders. So we haven't heard this topic approached from this angle before, so we wanted to dive into it today. But the three things that we're going to be talking about today, number one, how to acknowledge your community and build genuine relationships through your copy. Hint, it's using gratitude. Number two, leaning into gratitude without it being a gross sales tactic. And number three, grounding yourself in messaging that comes from a place of abundance, not scarcity. So these are our main topics for the day today. And if you're in the US, you celebrated Thanksgiving last week. If you're in Canada, you celebrated it last month. But it does feel very topical. There's a lot to be grateful for in our lives. And also we know that there's some difficulty this time of year. This time of year can really bring up a lot of pain for people. And so it's important that we acknowledge that and we sort of understand what role both of those pieces, the gratitude and the pain, can play in our lives and how that can come out through our messaging. So even if we're not experiencing a difficult time of year, I think it's really important to be mindful that a lot of the people in our community may be. And so just keep that in mind this time of year as you go about your festivities or celebrations, and bear in mind that this time of year can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Just a little bit of housekeeping in the meantime. We're going to be going live again in 2 weeks. That will be on December 12th, and that will be taking place same time. That's 1:30 Eastern / 10:30 a.m. Pacific. And we'll be talking in the Leadership Forum then about a TBD topic, but we're excited to have you. And if you want to get notifications of these trainings as they come up, probably the easiest thing to do is either join our Facebook group, which is the Thought Leaders Think Tank, or you can sign up for our mailing list and we send out a notification the week of so that you can RSVP. I'm going to see if I can add Jesse here. It's giving me a lot of options to add a mask, which is fun. Okay, I'm not seeing an option here, but if there is no option, I may just dive in. Let me give a notification real quick here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start diving in. So I think we've all heard that quote that businesses grow at the speed of relationships. I feel like I've heard this attributed so many times, I'm not sure where it came from. Please let me know if you do know. But I do think beyond just relationship marketing, there's something to be said for all of us building those genuine relationships with our audience. Oh, there's Jessie. Let's see if I can add her. Having some struggles today on the tech side of things. Right. So while I'm waiting for that to work out, it's important to, I think especially this time of year, express some gratitude for the people in your audience for being there, for supporting you, for listening, for being interested, for purchasing, but even just being there and being a support and being part of your community. Have you taken time in the last few weeks Or do you plan to take time here in the next month or two to thank them? Because the truth of the matter is, an email address is a very important piece of, I think that's Jesse. Hey, Jesse. It's really a valuable resource, right? If people are giving you their email address, it's up to us to really steward that resource and entrust it. So be sure to thank your people. I think also another way to develop those genuine relationships, because it can feel really hard, right? If you have a list of 50,000 people or you have a list of 5 people, it doesn't really matter. It can feel like a struggle to actually communicate with them directly. Oh, here's Jesse. I'm bringing you in. Hey, you.
Hi. It worked.
I know this has been like a tech trouble, but
I never got an alert that you went live, which was loads of fun, and then it wouldn't let me join.
it's okay. I think Facebook algorithms are just constantly in flux. So I've been talking about our topic number 1 about the importance of acknowledging community and building relationships. So I've been sort of challenging everybody who catches this on the replay or is listening live to say, hey, have you thanked your community in the last few weeks, or do you plan to do that by the end of the year? Obviously, we can do that anytime. It doesn't have to be during the holiday season, but now is a really nice time to do it. And then the other thing that I was just digging into was about building those genuine relationships, and how it can feel like a little bit of a challenge, right? Because whether you have a huge mailing list or a tiny mailing list or a huge audience, a group of followers on social or a small one, I think especially on email, though, it can feel super hard to feel like you're actually creating one-on-one relationships with people when you're just kind of mailing a mass list. So I was about to dig into how we can accomplish that.
Yeah, and I think it really applies to a lot of different areas. Anytime, like it's almost like there's 2 extremes, right? There's the point where you feel like you're not getting a lot of connection and engagement because maybe people are getting your emails but not replying, or maybe you're building a following on a new social media platform and you haven't really gotten a lot of traction yet. And then there's the complete other side of the spectrum where you have a really robust following and it's like you can't keep up with everything. And so I think finding that balance and finding a way to make everyone feel loved and to make your appreciation for them very transparent is so important, especially as you grow.
Right. So some strategies that you can use for that, if you already have some segmentation in your list or your audience, use that to your advantage. So if you already have a group that you know are your customers, or a group of people who have done, joint venture partnerships with you before, you can sort of send them out a thank you that's specific to them and how they've supported you and how what role they've played in your community and in your audience. Another thing that you can do is just share some stories. Time and time again, we find that every time that we dive into what's going on for us as human beings, as opposed to us as, fingers behind a keyboard or brains behind a business, that's where the connections are made. So even though you're still writing to a list of multiple people or hundreds or thousands of people, you're reaching out through vulnerability to them, and it invites them to do the same. I remember when we were reading, I think it was the Brene Brown book, The Gifts of Imperfection, and we were talking about how to create and deepen a relationship immediately. Brene Brown was talking about how you don't have to have a long-standing relationship with somebody to actually walk away from a conversation feeling like you've known each other forever. Really, at the end of the day, it's just saying and putting something out there that is a little vulnerable and inviting that to be returned. And when it is returned, you have like insta relationship, insta friendship.
Yeah, and I would add to that too that, this is not necessarily always an easy thing for vulnerability is hard online. Some people it comes very natural to, and other people it's a very difficult thing to do, especially through copy. And one of the things that I personally have learned over the last 8+ years of running this business is that often, if we're feeling something like in our gut, in our intuition, we have an emotion that we are feeling and we choose to talk about it in our copy, that's when we get response from our audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be scary because it's not tied to our marketing strategy directly, potentially.
Right.
It's not tied to, oh, we want to make sales in X, Y, and Z. It's tied to, I'm feeling a feeling around something and I'm sharing it with my audience because I feel like they need to hear it. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily you're turning your email list into your diary and like spilling out all of your secrets, but it is an avenue for you to share things that are important to you and relevant to your
Mm-hmm.
audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, think about what the message is you want to send. And I was talking a little bit before you came on, Jesse, about bearing in mind that this time of year can be full of celebrations and family gatherings and all kinds of excitement. And it also can be a really difficult and sort of emotionally painful time of year for a lot of people. So just being mindful of that. It doesn't mean that you necessarily need to feel that or that you need to tailor all of your messages to that, but just being mindful. And if it is something that you are experiencing, this may be an opportunity for you to share that so that you don't feel alone and people on your list who are feeling the same way also don't feel alone. So also, just pay attention to what your business goals are, but and you're able to do that. And if you want to be excited about something, be excited about something, but don't feel like that's the only message that you're allowed
Yeah.
to send.
Yeah, and I think this kind of starts tying into our second point, which is leaning into gratitude without it being a gross sales tactic. And so often I see things about gratitude on the internet in places, and it's always almost always with the same sort of spin of like, I'm just so grateful and here's my highlight reel of why. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful and here's my highlight reel of why. Sometimes gratitude doesn't come with this inherent, like, everything is perfect in my life and I'm grateful for that. Sometimes being grateful means being grateful for the mess and being grateful for the people that support you through the mess. If that's your community, if that's, your peers, if that's whoever that is, taking the time to express gratitude during the good times and during the bad times can be really empowering in your content and in the building of your community.
Mm-hmm. So I think when it comes to making sure this isn't just a marketing tactic, it's really just kind of coming from the heart, right? And just being honest with yourself and what you're feeling, what's going on for you right now, what you think your audience might be feeling, and connecting that for them. So it's not about making more sales, it's about making more relationships. And once you make those relationships, the sales can flow naturally from that. This is, again, assuming that everybody who's listening to this is a business owner, a thought leader, an innovator who has a very strong ethical moral compass, right? That like we don't want to be cheating people out of money. Like this is super not our goal, right? Like our goal is to develop relationships, make a positive change in the world. And so I think if you're nervous about coming off as sleazy, like it's probably not going to be a problem for you because you're going to be very
Yeah.
sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a copy standpoint, let's talk about this, like, actual what you write in your
Mhm.
words. I think honestly, like, this is the simplest thing in the world, but the just two words, thank you, are so incredibly powerful as a piece of just things that you put out to the world and doing it in a genuine way. And this isn't like, sales tactics 101. This is showing gratitude, saying the thing that is on your mind and wrapping it in the sort of gift wrap of thanking people for what they're providing you. Because at the end of the day, a business is a two-way street. It's not just you putting your stuff out to the world and a bunch of automatons are interested in it and buying it. Those are actual real people who have real emotions, real challenges, real hopes, desires, frustrations, all of that. And taking the time to thank them in in your copy shows that you recognize that and appreciate that. And I think that that's something that is so simple and so overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Glad you're finding this helpful, Steph. Let us know if you have any questions. I think another thing that I haven't really seen leveraged in copy, or at least hasn't been talked about though, is if you're familiar with love languages. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Probably there's 5 different love languages, and I'm not going to get into what all of them are or what they do, but probably they are all represented in your audience, because we're all so different, right? So what are some of the things that you can do in your copywriting to acknowledge those? So for instance, those people who are looking for quality time, and that's what it means to really feel appreciated and heard and understood. This isn't just about like their spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. This is about just sort of human to human connection. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
romantic love, right? Um, for those people who are looking for that quality time and that sort of interaction, for them, maybe it's offering, just saying somewhere in there, is there an opportunity for them to get on a call with you? Because that for them is going to be really meaningful. Or for people for whom it's words of affirmation, just like letting them know, like, man, you guys are amazing. And this is why. This is like what this community means to me. This is
Mm-hmm.
why I really appreciate having you in my life and my business, etc. So be thinking through that and think about how you can tailor your copy to those different love languages that I guarantee are represented within your audience.
Absolutely. And I think this is also a good time to talk about the power of you language. A lot of times
Mhm.
when you see people post about gratitude, it's, I'm grateful for thing one in my life, thing two in my life, thing three in my life. And if you just reframe that a little bit by saying, I'm grateful for you because, and then fill it
Mhm.
out, it just shifts everything. It's less about me and more about everyone. And there's nothing wrong with looking at what you're grateful in your life, but when we're talking about putting it out to the world, to your existing community, they're a part of the equation. So making sure that they're represented in the language you use is really important.
And I think another piece, and we've talked about this in discussions other than around gratitude based copywriting, but just sort of in general is a great copywriting practice for people who are interested in those relationships, asking some questions. Yeah, okay, if you're sending out an email, they're going to have to hit reply to answer them. But even just asking the question, even if it's a rhetorical question that they're not really intended to write out a response to or actually hit respond or reply and write back to you, just having some questions in there just makes it feel engaging. It makes it feel more like a conversation. So if you're really going for copy that expresses your gratitude and recognizes that you're a human talking to other humans that you really care about and appreciate, that's a great way to sort of subtly indicate that that's sort of where your frame of mind is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go on to our final point here, which is how to ground yourself in messaging that comes from a place of abundance. So, if you've been in the business world for a while, you may have experienced times where your world, your business world, kind of looks like this. In fact, this
Mm.
is kind of the definition of entrepreneurship, right? Whether that curvy line is engagement in your community, whether it's revenue coming in the door, whether it's the amount of energy you have to put out to the world. Sometimes you have a lot of abundance. Sometimes you have a lot of energy. You have a lot of time. You have a lot of money. You have a lot of the things you need. And sometimes you don't. So when you don't, how do you still ground yourself in messaging that comes from a place of abundance without it sounding totally fake and like you're forcing it? Do you have any thoughts, Mary?
I think if you've done some work in this area, like if you've worked with a coach or you've read some books on this topic of abundance versus scarcity, this will probably come easier to you because you kind of know the drill. We're definitely by no means coaches in this area. However, we've delved in enough to know that it really can impact your messaging. So I think at the end of the day, it's again grounding yourself in what you are grateful for without leveraging that
Mm-hmm.
as a numbing device for the things that are super painful for you, right? Like you can be feeling pain and gratitude at the same time. They don't have to drown each other out, which is crazy, but like we are complicated human beings and we're messy. And that's part of the fun of it, right? Is that we can feel both of those things at the same time. Um, and so just kind of leaning into the trust that you have in what is to come. I had a chance to listen really briefly to last night, a portion of last night's Happy Thoughts show with Sarah Wiles and Lacey Seitz. And they were talking about being grateful for what you have, absolutely, that energy, the resources, the finances, whatever it is, but also expressing gratitude for the things that are to come. And I think that can be a bit of a challenge because it means leaning into the trust. But it's definitely something that we can do, an exercise that we can undergo to step into this mindset of abundance and gratitude.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the things, so I'm a little obsessed with Instagram stories, and one of the things that comes up frequently on the stories for Rachel Wright of Wright Wellness Center is she posts about her morning routine pretty much every morning. And one of the things that I've noticed that she does and that I've sort of adopted for myself is that she has a gratitude practice in the morning where, yes, she writes what she's grateful for, which is a pretty common gratitude practice. But then she has a list of things she will be grateful for, things that are coming up in her future that she knows she's going to have gratitude for. And they haven't happened yet, but she's still grateful that they're going to happen. And that little mindset tweak is just so cool because it gets you in this frame of mind of, oh, yeah, I'm creating these things. And so when you're in a place of scarcity, thinking about what's to come can be really powerful as long as you're not ignoring those sort of less positive feelings. You know, it's not about covering them up and pushing them to the
Right.
side. It's about acknowledging both of them and doing something with both of them.
Yeah. So, in terms of actually seeing this in action, which is grounding your messaging in gratitude and abundance, I'm going to go back to a story that we've shared a number of times, but not from this angle, which is almost a year ago, we decided to pivot and really start targeting our messaging towards leaders, thought leaders, entrepreneurial leaders, those who were really ready to take on that mantle or who had already taken it on. And this was terrifying for us on a lot of levels, because I think we also recognize this requires us to step up and to be confident. And but I think what we did without even kind of realizing it, or I don't know if we would have put this in these words, but I think this is what we did, right? Which was we just kind of trusted that this was going to work out and that this was going to be the transformation of our audience, whether it was, some people leaving and new people coming in. And yes, that happened. The other thing that happened though is that we sort of gave permission to people who were in our community to rise up with us. So that's sort of how our audience changed. And we just kind of went into it and just said, like, this is who we serve. This is our message. And I think it took honestly, it took us a lot of guts to do it because that was first quarter of this year, which was actually like not a great quarter in terms of traditional metrics. And so we really had to be operating from a place of abundance. And I just remember like feeling so excited, like terrified, but also excited about it. And I think if we had been coming from a place of scarcity, it would have felt just terrifying and paralyzing, and that was it. So like checking in with your emotions and seeing, like, does it feel like, terrifying and exciting to do that? Are you feeling some positivity around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a place where you can lean on your community too, because they are a wellspring of feedback. You know, when we went through this transition and we were terrified, we did a big announcement in our Facebook group, and just getting the affirmation from them that they were really excited for us, even the ones who didn't follow us, even the ones who decided to opt out of following us because they didn't feel like it represented where they were going, were excited for us. And that affirmation really helped us to, even though we were in a place of scarcity partially, also be in a place of abundance.
Exactly. So hopefully that helps kind of ground it in a real life scenario and what that actually looks and feels like. But whatever sort of it takes for you to feel that confidence, if this is something that you feel like you really need to do, take that step. So yeah, if it is looking for some affirmation, if it's digging inside you, if it's journaling around it, if it's talking with your mentor,
whatever that thing is. Because people can definitely sense when our messaging is mixed. It's not even a sensing, it's just, it feels obvious to them that our messaging is mixed. They're like, I don't know what you're communicating here. And that's not what we want. Like that's like, that's our Voldemort, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So to wrap things up real quickly, just to kind of quickly summarize, storytelling is powerful. Acknowledging your community is powerful. You can build genuine relationships through your content, no matter how big or small your audience is. And the larger your audience gets, the more important it is to make sure that you have systems in place to recognize what they're doing for you through things like you language, through saying thank you, through love languages, all of that, and to ground yourself in abundance while also recognizing when you're not feeling so abundant and being okay with that.
Exactly. And our bit of homework for you is, if you've not yet expressed gratitude, or you feel like you have more gratitude to express to your audience, take some time between now and the end of the year to do that. Kind of sit in what we've said, or if you already have an idea of what you want to say, go for it. But I know that your audience will appreciate it, especially when you're coming from this mindset of genuine gratitude and abundance for what they have brought into your life and for the wonderful things that are to come. So thank you so much for being here for the training. If you guys have any questions, feel free to add some comments. Even if you're catching it on the replay, we will definitely be checking in, and we are happy to support you.